Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents First Comes Duty by J Strebor, narrated by Eric Martin. Chapter 1. Ensign Nathan Telford shut down his crippled port engine, lessening the vibration that churned through his controls. 30 seconds remained for him to lock his boat onto the guidance beam. Failure to do so would force him to abort the landing. With enemy fighters closing fast from astern, it would mean the end of him. His damage control menu confirmed what he'd been sensing. What a mess. He wished he could wipe the sweat from his upper lip. The surprise attack had severely damaged his Spectre fighter. Only a few maneuvering thrusters remained. The instruments flickered between green and red, indicating a hit to his shipboard management computer. With a damaged SMC, none of his readings could be trusted. Nathan manipulated the remaining thrusters, forcing his fighter to acquire the beam for a straight-in approach to Chiron. Shutting down his engine, he applied full power to his forward thrusters to slow his approach. After a few seconds, an alarm wailed as the thrusters quit. A thin chance of getting back aboard remained if none of the others failed. If not, he could skip past the boat bay. The other, less pleasant options included crashing into the bay or colliding with the ship's engines. "This is bad, bad," he whispered. "Ensign Telford," Chiron's landing signal officer said, "we show you in the groove and on the beam, but you are coming in too fast. Slow your approach or abort your landing." That's it. He shook his head, but knew he had no option. Endangering Chiron to save his own neck would never be acceptable. His hand hovered above the attitude controls. A tingling ran along his fingers from the maneuvering control pad. The sensation traversed his arm and neck and struck a spot in his mind that screamed, "Wait." In a moment of crystal-clear revelation, he knew the remaining controls would fail. Nathan took a short breath. Of course they will. Engaging the fighter's port thrusters, he pushed the boat through her lateral axis. A counterblast from the starboard thrusters steadied the craft. The fighter fell toward the boat bay stern first. Rotating the combat chair 180 degrees gave him an unobstructed view of the fast-approaching boat bay through the stern viewplates. Initializing his remaining engine, he pushed the throttle to half power. For a few hopeful moments, his spirits lifted as the Spectre's speed dropped. Then the alarm blared. Shutting down the damaged engine silenced the alarm. The sanctuary of the Chiron's boat bay was less than a kilometer ahead, a beacon of welcoming light in the darkness. Although his forward momentum had been cut, he still streaked toward the ship at a dangerously high approach speed. If he followed the book, now would be the time to abort. However, his better instincts told him this could be done. Nathan brought the 2 stern thrusters back online and applied a 5-second burst at full power. His speed fell to nearly match Chiron's velocity, but retained sufficient momentum to bring him aboard. Stern first, his Spectre passed through the environmental force field, dropped onto its skids, and slid gently into the shimmering arrestor field. Although only a simulated training exercise, the advanced sim could mimic any conditions a pilot might encounter, including sweat-inducing anxiety. Nathan closed down all systems before constricting his throat with a short swallowing motion to key his larynx mic. "Pier Commander Pilot, permission to retrieve?" "Iris area is clear, sir," Petty Officer Forglore said. "Permission to retrieve granted. LSO wants a rapid retrieval." Of course the prick does. "Roger." Nathan took a deep breath. "SMC, Telford." "SMC?" the computer replied. "SMC, prepare for rapid retrieval on my mark." "Standing by," the SMC said. His body tensed, fighting his efforts to relax. "SMC, mark." The combat chair rocketed upward toward the top of the combat sphere. The clear panel slid aside, and the iris dilated. When the combat chair cleared the upper hull, the iris snapped shut. Nathan caught his stomach as it threatened to keep going, and swallowed hard till the slight nausea passed. P.O. Forgler assisted him to remove his gloves and helmet. Nathan wiped perspiration from his face with the offered towel. After the recent excitement, the atmosphere in the fighting trainer simulation room had a hushed reverence akin to a wake. Around the perimeter of the iris, the other 9 trainees of Epsilon Flight stared at him. Their expressions spoke of respectful, yet awed, disbelief. The back of his neck started warming up. Mo's lopsided smile was accompanied by a slow shaking of her head. Nathan almost returned her smile, until he noticed that the senior officer present did not share her opinion of his capabilities. From his position at the training officer's control station, Lieutenant J.G. Austin Woodley glared at Nathan. His pathetic attempt at staring him down nearly caused Nathan to laugh aloud. The pale skin of his ridiculously youthful face had flushed red, nearly obscuring the fine pattern of freckles. They were the same age, but Woodley ranked Nathan just.
"What the devil do you think you are doing?"
Woodley's well-rounded Republican accent had irritated Nathan from the moment he had been posted to their flight as an assistant training officer 2 months ago. Now, the pompous lieutenant simply bored him.
Landing practice?"
Nathan said, cutting in his lethargic Castorian drawl. Smiles radiated from the trainees.
"That so-called maneuver was insane," Woodley roared. "You do not land a fighter sternward into a monitor's boat bay. That has never been done before, and with good reason. Are you mad?"
"There's an ongoing debate with regard to my sanity," Nathan said, mopping sweat from the back of his neck. "What do you think, Lieutenant?"
"I think that you have refused to call me sir, as is my right, for the last 2 months.
It constantly amazed Nathan how certain Republican blue bloods could maintain such a snotty angle to their heads for so long without cramping. No one got promoted to Lieutenant J.G. only 6 months after graduation, not without backing from way up top. Mo Akuma led the rest of the trainee pilots to stand beside Nathan.
"If you check the regs, you've read the regs, right? You will see that respect for the uniform requires a subordinate to address an officer by either of those descriptions. Lieutenant. Sir, you will address me as Sir, Ensign."
He closed the distance until Nathan could tell what he had for lunch. Nathan's teeth set. "Get out of my face, Lieutenant." The other 9 trainees closed around the arrogant fool, their expressions dark and menacing. Woodley's complexion paled with dramatic effect. His mouth opened and closed, but he had temporarily lost the ability to make sound. The hatch slid open, and the trainees snapped to attention. "At ease," Commander Worsfold said. Not for the first time, his eyes held a touch of mischief. "So, how are things going?" Nathan suppressed a smile. He had no doubt the commander knew perfectly well how things were going. Whether by technical manipulation or mystical clairvoyance, Worsfold always knew everything that happened with regard to his charges.
"Great, Skip," Meta said. "You should have been here. Nathan pulled off the most outstanding trap I've ever seen."
"Really? I'll have to take a look at the recordings." Worsfold rounded on the assistant training officer. "Lieutenant Woodley, have all of the trainees completed their allotted practice landings for the day?" Woodley swallowed and found the place where he had lost his voice.
"Yes, sir. All trainees have completed 2 practice landings in the afternoon session. However, Ensign Telford—"
"Very well, Lieutenant," Worsfold said. "We're close enough to stand down to end practice for the day."
"But, Commander, Ensign
Don't worry about the debrief, Lieutenant Woodley. I'll take care of it. No need to thank me. You're dismissed."
"Commander, I feel it is my duty to report—"
Worsfold locked his gaze onto Woodley with the sort of menacing nuance the lieutenant would dearly love to emulate. "Lieutenant Woodley, what part of 'you are dismissed' are you having difficulty understanding?" The change in his tone, though unmistakable, was barely audible. Woodley snapped to attention. In an act of rarely seen good sense, he chose the wise path. Turning on his heel, he marched from the training room. Worsfold set his face to a disapproving scowl, but still the hint of mischief remained. "I've told you clowns before about teasing Woodley, have I not?"
"Woodley was riding Nathan again, Skip," Meta said. "He set up an impossible ambush scenario and then got pissed off when Nathan brought his boat aboard."
"That's right, Skipper," Ozzy said. "Because he couldn't make the grade to get into métier, he takes his pettiness out on us."
"Not only us, Skipper," Mo said. "Woodley's tallied up complaints from every flight he's been assigned to, and the less said about his promotion, the better."
Commander Worsfold's gaze fell onto Nathan. "And what do you think, Mr. Telford?" "He's a bother, all right," Nathan drawled as he stepped away from the command chair. "But I expect the commander has the matter well in hand." "How flattering of you to think so." His brief smile disappeared. "Now listen up. You've all done well in the last 9 months, but next week we commence carrier qualification, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is a whole new game." A sea of grinning faces greeted him.
"About bloody time," Meta muttered.
Worsfold shot her a blistering glare. "I'm sure what Ensign Kaspowitz means is she is as pleased as all of us to be going out on Chiron," Nathan shrugged. "You know how impatient Salamesians are, Skipper." "A pilot without patience is no asset to the Corps," Worsfold growled. "Now listen up. If Woodley has a mind to, he could bring charges against the lot of you for today's little stunt. You might be métier trainees and not the mere mortals who undergo flight training at this base, but you are bound by the same rules as every other officer in the Athenian naval service. So between now and when we ship out, I don't want any of you giving Woodley a hard time. It's yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. Tell me that you understand me."
"Aye, aye, sir," they responded.
"Good. Now, you might as well take off for the day. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 0800 hours. While they filed out, Worsfold held Nathan back with a hand resting on his shoulder. The trainees paused at the hatch, glancing back before moving on. Worsfold leaned against the flight controller's panel and folded his arms. "That was a fine bit of flying. Grommets are traditionally expected to die in the Custer scenario. I got lucky. Yeah, all of your teachers and instructors attest to your luck." His face held an odd mixture of emotions, a sort of simmering anger, to be sure, but something else, familiar yet elusive. "You've been lucky enough to earn top scores in leadership classes, advanced navigation, tactical analysis, and atmospheric flight training. Your luck has extended to blowing out the numbers in the sims, and now you manage to escape from a program purposely designed to kill you. Your instructors use words like gifted, exceptional, even brilliant. The best natural pilot and tactician in the school, according to one of your instructors. Yes, for the last 9 months you have been extremely lucky." Nathan felt simultaneously flattered, embarrassed, and extremely cautious. "I guess I've done fair enough." "Yes, you have." Worsfold took in the expanse of the Johansen Mark 27 TF-51 Spectre combat sphere simulator. His expression turned hostile. "And after all that good work, you go and pull this harebrained stunt. I put you back into the sims to sharpen you for carrier qual, not to screw around. I know you're not stupid, so what is it? Do you think these simulations are a joke, mister?" "No, sir." "Then why in God's name didn't you abort your landing?" Worsfold's scornful face, so reminiscent of his dead father's, spoke of a profound sense of disappointment. A pang struck at Nathan's heart. "The ensign has no excuse for his actions, sir." He pushed down the anguish and resentment. "You're not at the academy now, mister. You are a commissioned officer in Monitor Corps. So the ensign better produce an explanation damn fast." Nathan recognized he had taken a risk, but Worsfold's tirade seemed disproportionate to the alleged crime. At least he showed the professionalism to dismiss the rest of the trainees before reaming him. "Sir, from a purely tactical standpoint, I believe my actions are justified." When dealing with officers he respected, Nathan's lethargic accent disappeared. "Really?" Worsfold said. "Do tell." Epsilon 1 was the last of the boat's fighters. Damaged or not, it was an asset worth preserving, in my opinion, sir. Nathan struggled to keep his expression neutral. "The tactical situation," the commander mused aloud, nodding. "Saving the boat's last fighter. All pretty sound thinking." Again his gaze locked on to Nathan. "That isn't the only reason you took the action you did, is it?" Nathan hesitated. "Tell me." "I felt I could do it." Worsfold's frustration returned. "So you put Chiron and everyone aboard her at risk because you thought you could do it?" "No, sir," Nathan snapped. "I didn't think I could do it. I felt I could do it." Worsfold's mouth tightened in preparation for launching into him. A flash of anger washed away the last of Nathan's professional reserve. He took a single step toward the commander. "No, sir, I am not playing games with semantics." The commander's eyebrows arched. "I felt the thrusters giving out. I felt the starboard engine's power dying. I assumed Woodley would cut my power and cripple me when he saw what I was doing. Even so, I felt, with my best instincts, I could bring the boat safely home. It might not be entirely rational, but it was a gut reaction to a stress situation. However, sir, if keen instincts are no longer seen as an asset in Monitor Corps pilots, then I guess you'll have to reassign me to sweeping up after incompetent fuckers like Woodley." The words had leapt from his mouth in a heartbeat of impassioned resentment and a total disregard for the proprieties of rank. Nathan's heart sank. He wondered if growing coffee beans on Caleb's plantation wasn't the worst of occupations. What if you lost your stern thrusters? Curiosity softened Worsfold's snarl. "I figured Woodley would pull them, so I isolated them on a silent relay so he couldn't." Worsfold shook his head slowly and turned away, facing the far bulkhead. "I told you once about the purpose of this training. Do you remember?" "Aye, sir. You said the training is designed for people like me to learn, or, failing to do so, to screw up without killing either themselves or anyone else. Mistakes happen, but amateurs should not attempt excursions into non-regulation maneuvers." Nathan finally swallowed the lump in his throat. "The last time I tried something, innovative, you suggested next time I mightn't be so lucky." He paused for a moment, then licked his dry lips. "Is that the case here, sir?" When Worsfold faced him, the tightness had disappeared from his features. Nathan controlled his surprise on seeing Worsfold's lazy smile. "Not this time, hotshot," Worsfold said. "But I advise you to keep a check on your temper. It is unbecoming to an officer in the Corps, and will be a definite impediment to gaining your own command one day." "I'll remember that, Skipper." "See that you do," the commander said, with false gruffness. He shook his head again. "I have been training pilots for 5 years, and never in that time, never, has a trainee pilot tried something so, how did you put it? Innovative." He scratched the back of his head. "They don't teach those sorts of maneuvers at the academy these days, do they?" "It seemed like a good idea at the time." Worsfold failed to respond to his attempted witticism. "It was instinctual. I guess it comes from all the time I spent in the sims at the academy. I started in my first year, and I suppose the training has stuck." "First year?" His eyebrows arched curiously, a smile pinching the corners of his mouth. "Since when are plebes allowed simulation time?" Nathan attempted to force a wry smile, but the effect felt self-consciously deformed. Chapter 2. Body and spirit I surrendered whole to harsh instructors, and received a soul. Rudyard Kipling, The Wonder, Epitaphs, 1919 A.D. Date, September 8th, 3:21 ASC. Position, Monitor Corps Fighter Training School, Minos, Planet Crete, Athenian Core Systems. Status, Métier Training, Downtime. Nathan stepped from the simulator training building into bright afternoon sunshine. The early spring breeze carried a biting edge common for the planet's southern hemisphere at this time of the year. The blue sky was clear, except for the occasional high-altitude vapor trail from a training flight. Taking a sharp left turn at the administration building set him on a course for the junior officers' quarters. The day after graduation, he and Livy, now free of academy restrictions, had married. Nathan had been deeply touched that the 120 Kendo team members had delayed their furloughs by a day to form an enormous arch of raised swords to greet the newly married couple as they exited the chapel. His 9 months at Minos had rushed by with unnerving pace. Every year, the school accepted a mere 110 of the Academy's best into their advanced training course, Métier. Officially attached to Training Command's Flight Training Center, Métier compressed a 2-year flight training schedule into a highly intensive 12 months. On the morning of his first day on Minos, he reported to the base infirmary for his communication implants. Mo had needed to restrain him when one of the quacks said the words guaranteed to boil his blood. "Don't worry, this won't hurt a bit." Quick and painless, the quacks said. A week after the painless procedure, all of the trainees were having difficulty swallowing, and some continued to suffer from ringing in the ears. The experience did nothing to lessen Nathan's hatred of medicos. At the base administration building, he was assigned to a training flight. Fortunately, Monitor Corps believed in keeping a working team together. Nathan and 3 of his teammates who had distinguished themselves while serving aboard the Monitor Truculent were assigned to Epsilon flight. The rest of the team comprised star students from the Academy's Kendo teams, all of them known to him. Initially, the Epsilon students did cartwheels when they heard Commander Henry Worsfold, call sign Skipper, had been appointed as their senior training officer. Athletically lean and slightly taller than Nathan, with gold wings on his flight suit, he was a giant in the trainees' eyes. The commander had once skippered a Monitor. Nathan could not help wondering what could possibly have induced a man like Worsfold to relinquish command of his own boat for the mundane duties of chief flight instructor. The trainees' celebration quickly dissolved into a state of sour incredulity. Worsfold's ludicrously cautious attitude began to wear thin with both students and instructors alike. Ensign Gillespie finally tagged the commander with the secret call sign Wary Worsfold. No one openly disagreed with the assessment. Other teams were getting further ahead of them, which did nothing to improve their sour mood. Nathan could not understand how someone of Worsfold's background, a former fighter jock and Monitor captain, could have become so circumspect. Monitor skippers were renowned for their aggression. They were said to have fangs. Thus far, Worsfold had acted like a mother hen with a brood of chicks, rather than a warrior bent on producing offspring of similar persuasion. Next week, they would say farewell to the routine of ANS Base Minos for 3 months. This section of training contained the most rigorous pressure of all. Fail carrier qualification, and all the work done before counted for nothing. Nathan could hardly wait. He rounded the corner into the area set aside for the junior officers' married quarters. The drab practicality of the base facilities fell away before uniformly neat rows of small bungalows. Complemented by white picket fences and modest garden plots, the bright white color of the buildings made the area feel as though it belonged in another reality. Entering the mundane billet, he once again marveled at what Livy had done with the place. As countless wives before her had done, she had taken the basic accommodation package and turned it into a home. Colorful curtains hung from the windows. Pictures of family and friends festooned the living room, with a couple of spirited tapestries draped over the dreary walls. As usual, she hunched over the kitchen table, marking homework on her computer. For a time, he felt content to simply take in her thick chestnut hair and fine lines. "Hello, my darling." He hugged her around the shoulders. Livy leaned against his chest and sighed. His kiss lingered on her lips briefly. She had trained him not to interrupt her during work hours. "How was your day?" Nathan asked. "Good. And yours?" "Oh, same old, same old. How have the mini-monsters been treating you?" "My students aren't monsters," she said, rising to the bait. "They're adolescents." "Oh, same thing." He grudgingly broke contact. "Is she up yet?" "No, so don't disturb her. You know what you'll have to do if she doesn't get her sleep, don't you?" "Yes, dear," he said, talking through his nose. "I've got kendo classes tonight, so I'm going to grab a quick shower and head out." "Again?" "That's the price of popularity." Nathan knew he shouldn't, but couldn't resist checking in. He opened the nursery door so quietly, no sound came from the old hinges. With all of the stealth of a monitor, he crept to the edge of the bassinet and peered in. Ellen Bernice Telford lay in the crib, surrounded by white sheets and a menagerie of soft animal toys. Although she was only 6 months old, he could tell that she would develop her mother's thick, lustrous hair. The fine-boned features were her mother's, but she was most definitely Daddy's girl. He reached down to brush a strand of hair from her sweet little face, but resisted the urge. If she awoke now, she would awake again in the wee hours of the next morning, and he would need to attend to her. Not that he minded. Nathan forced himself to leave and hit the shower. 2 minutes of hot water, followed by 2 minutes of cold, swept away most of his fatigue. Dressed in a fresh flight suit, he grabbed the duffel containing his fighting suit, light armor, and sword. Passing the nursery, Nathan checked in on his girl again. He tiptoed inside and stared into the bassinet, to be greeted by 2 large gray eyes. The obscured blue flecks behind those eyes said better than anything else that they belonged to a Telford. Ellie squealed with delight as he scooped her up. Holding her at arm's length, he recited the old song, "Hello, baby." She gurgled her approval, then went quiet when he held her close to his beating heart. Whenever he held her in his arms, he felt as if his heart would break from pure joy. Like mother, like daughter. The exercise would cost him sleep at some obscene hour of the following morning, but at the moment he could not care less. Chapter 3. Date: September 8th, 3:21 ASC. Position: Monitor Corps Base Minus, Planet Crete, Office of the Commanding Officer, Flight Operations. "You're kidding," Captain Poulter blurted. Worsfold grinned and shook his head. "He dodged the bullet in the ambush scenario, then brought his damaged boat into the boat bay sternward? How could he do that with his flight controls out? You did cut his flight controls." "I took his mag plating first, then his engines, one at a time, then his thrusters. I thought I had him." Worsfold took a sip of his coffee and snorted. "The young buck saw me coming and rerouted stern thrusters to a silent relay." "Didn't you keel-haul him for not aborting?" "I tried to, but he talked me out of it." Poulter chuckled. "I swear, for a moment I thought he was going to take a swing at me." "Who is this kid?" "Oh, Rosie, you should see him. Fire and passion clamped down by an iron-willed determination. He's the best natural pilot I've ever seen." "Better than Jenny Teal?" Worsfold nodded slowly, staring into his coffee mug. "It wasn't your fault, Henry." "I pushed her too hard." "You push them all hard. That's your job." "There's a line you're not supposed to cross with grommets. I pushed Jenny over that line, and it killed her. I don't ever want to do that again." "But you will, Henry," Poulter said, her voice turning appropriately formal. "Our sole purpose is to prepare these kids for the real thing, to push them to their limits before they go into a shooting match." She hated having...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?